part, I believe, to do with root disease. What happens when you have a very narrow crop rotation and very little input of high-quality organic matter in a farming system is more problems with root disease. And what we've found, and we've done surveys on this in 3 states with many, many farms, controlled experiments, strip tests, what we find is that the conventional corn has a lot more root disease and is putting a lot of its efforts into growing roots in order to overcome the root disease. This is the reason why we have so big problems in drought years with conventional farming, because the roots are diseased and they have difficulty finding water. So when the plants are putting a lot of their efforts into growing roots, they're not somehow mobilizing the same amount. This is my hypothesis at this point. They're not mobilizing protein as much into growth. Pardon? U.S. Department of Agriculture?
There was that, and you had some university. What's the research topic of, what is it that you're collaborating?
Well, we're all breeding maize.
You're all
We're breeding maize together. We're exchanging and doing research, some doing more with disease, I'm doing more with quality, and some with more with insects. So we're all working together to do the breed.
for different things. Is there a common goal?
No, well, yes, there's a common goal, releasing very good hybrids for the small seed companies that feed the non-GMO and the organic market. So there's an alternative, because those varieties are disappearing, and the only thing left for farmers that's good is going to be eventually just GMO. So there has to be an alternative, and so we want to make sure that farmers have that alternative.
We're going to come back to, okay, one more question.
See, have you checked the difference of rootstock of GM and non-GM and organic?
Rootstock in what way?
Means
Well, the roots,
how much roots there in GM, how much in conventional without GM, and how much is in organic?
how big the rooting systems are?
Exactly.
I haven't been able to do it between GM and non-GM because of the problems that I told you earlier on about working with GM. In terms of doing good, clean experiments, you need to have the same variety with and without GM. But between conventional and the varieties that we're breeding, there is a difference in the rooting systems.
How much?
We are having, to our surprise, and against what we expected, we have smaller rooting systems with finer roots. And I believe that has to do with being able to get more nitrogen out of the soil organic matter.
And what's the difference between pH?
Very variable. In general, we have good pH.
Is pH not good enough?
Well, I would say we don't need to add lime or very little lime. Basically, we're running probably between 6 and 7.5% pH, 8.5%. 6 and 7.5 pH. So we're not on acidic soils.
No, you see, my experiment says that the organic has more roots, and that's the basic reason why it's able to have more nutritious.
Yes, and that's what we had expected and did not find. What we found was that the organic had much healthier roots. It had about half more, the conventional had about twice as much root disease. 3 states, numerous farmers, and so that the organic didn't have to grow such a big rooting system.
See, I get confused when you say chemically grown crops conventional. Why can't we call it agriculture?
Yes, good question. That's a big issue, but I can't resolve
Why
that.
can't we call the fertilizer as booster? It's not a fertilizer. It doesn't fertilize anything.
It's a stimulant.
Great. Thank you very much for that question. All right. Now we're going to have Hans come back up and kind of put this session into a framework, and then we're going to have an open discussion, and we'll have the whole evening closed by
Thank you. Sorry, I'm back. Now, how jogging goes in agriculture? And I think that what we have a lot of evidence already. The question then is, how much evidence do we need? And how much evidence did the other side actually use to promote their wear? So, first of all, I want to go back to the ISTAD report, where we have asked for this fundamental change. in agricultural knowledge, science and technology was important. And already a few years ago we did this, and again, are we actually getting there? Fortunately, and you heard it, we have the science, we have a lot of farmers' knowledge also, to actually do this paradigm change. And the paradigm change really, which has to happen at the policy level, because if we don't change the policies, farmers below cannot actually implement a lot of what they should be or could be implementing to really make that change, to go not any longer with business as usual, because that's actually not a solution. So one thing we need to do is really a transition. You know, it's not really doing a little bit at the edges. We need a total transition of the agricultural system, production, and the rest of the food system. Because they're all connected, I'm sure that later too. So we need to address the multifunctionality of agriculture. Again, very important. Agriculture is not just growing food. Agriculture has many roles. I know I'll go into that too. And particularly, we have to augment, increase the resilience of the system. We're having climate change coming, having more demands on land. So I think we need to increase the resilience. If we don't do that, we're going to have a big trouble because change is coming. And also, we need to make sure that the small scale, smallholder and family farmers are being promoted more. They need to be given the proper science so that they can have technologies which is adapted to their needs. And also to particularly women's needs, which make up a lot, or a big number of those smallholder and family farms, or farmers. Many issues linked to this. Land ownership, as you know, are important. We can go to many other factors, access to water, access to seeds, just name it, to credit, insurances. All this is very important and it has to be promoted. What we really need, I mentioned this, job creation. So again, we need to have an agriculture which creates jobs, and that you can do only if you educate better. And through better education, what you're going to do, you're going to increase sort of the standing of the farmers in the community, in the whole community. So to me, it looks like that unless we also do that, people will just run away from the countryside, and we will not have the farmers we need. In America already, I think the average age of the farmers is like 63 or something.
57.
Or 57, but it's about the same, right? I was just to say, so where are the young farmers? So the big problem won't be GM or no GM. The problem is, are there any farmers left? I think we need to start to think about this much, much harder. And if the way to go in developing countries, in newly industrialized countries, to actually reduce the number of farmers non-stop, I think we're going to run into the same situation. Already today, many young people don't want to stay on farm. And why? Because the job is hard, backbreaking, it doesn't pay, it is not valued. And the proof that it's not valued is because we throw the food away which they produce. We need to really go to a more systemic and holistic approach. Again, agriculture is not done in isolation of everything else. Actually, it is connected to almost everything else. And unless we actually take this into account, we will go the wrong way. And this is one of the reasons why simple solution, reductionist solution, will never deal with complex problems as we have. They only address a symptom, and that's good for business, because if you just treat the symptom, tomorrow the symptom is still there, so you still can treat it and sell something. If you actually go to the root cause of the problem, being insects, diseases, productivity, the cause is what we need to address. And we even know how to do that too. The question is, how more evidence do people want, those people who make the policies, to put on the table? Multifunctionality. So agriculture is not at the confine of the environment, because that's what we are all in it, and the people are part of it, not outside somewhere. All the social dimension and the economic dimension. Everything has to actually work together in order to really have a world which is livable, which is equitable, which is also viable, and in the end, sustainable. So this is sort of the pattern where we need to move towards. Multifunctionality is key. And when you look at this, that also links to the ecosystem services. Because agriculture provides, again, as I said, more than food, provides clean water, clean air. And the farmers ought to be paid for this. If people don't want to pay for the food, well, let them pay for everything else the farmer produces. Maybe that's the way to do it. But there's no way we can move on in the years to come if the farmers are not, again, put up front as number one element of society. They have to be there, because if there's no food, there's nothing. Okay, so this is very clear. But, so, where are we going now? This is a bit of a joke, but this is the text which came out of Rio on agriculture. A lot of people have worked very hard to make sure that agriculture doesn't go under in the discussion on sustainable development, because agriculture is the number one, the basis for sustainable agriculture. So here you can see a bit better what's in there, what was in red. Very important. The conference in Rio reaffirmed the necessity to promote, enhance and support more sustainable agriculture, and including crop, livestock, etc. I mean, that's there. I mean, this is a very strong statement. Now you can go out and say, hey, you people, ministers, heads of state who are there, you endorse this. Now let's do it. And again, that cannot be done with a single solution like silver bullets, GMOs, for example. We know that. We heard it before. They don't do anything actually to address any of those challenges we have had. None. Okay? It's very, very clear. Actually, they create new problems which we don't need. And you have, if you have read the papers in the last few days, you will know the evidence, which is now coming more and more out, about the health impact of eating the GMOs. A lot of people have been talking about this for a long time. The industry already killed. I mean, almost basically any scientist who came out with any data on this was put down. But evidence keeps coming. So what do? We need this transformation. So the transformation of agriculture, on the left side there you have this conventional productivist system, so high productivity, low sustainability. Then you move over, you have in the middle there sort of peasant farming, traditional system, and then further over indigenous system. So they are less productive, a bit more sustainable, but not sustainable either. So we need to move everything over there into an agroecological system. Now the trick is that when you go from one side to the other, you need funds. You need to support this transition. It doesn't happen by itself. In particular, if you continue to put money into the wrong side, it will not go into the right side. And so that arrow in the middle there, so okay, this is depression, needs to be helped. And I will show you that this actually can be done. And now it's just to show, this one is just to show the complexity basically of agriculture. With all the system, there's many things happening there. So very often, if we have a problem in agriculture, we think so, it's probably outside somewhere. Bad policies of trade, for example, you know, they are much more important sometimes than what you do in the field. But how do we know? Because we don't do this, actually. But the Institute is the only one actually trying to analyze with the people, the NGOs, farmers, the system, and try to come up with policies. So this is the way. And the little blip there in the middle who came in, that's sort of the little part there of even plant breeding in this whole system. And if you look at plant breeding, GMO is just a tiny little bit. Now we make all this discussion all the time about this GMO, when actually we have so many other things where we could activate to make those changes. But we have to understand it. And if we don't sit down and try to understand the system, and not only just what happened in the field, I don't think we'll find a solution. We also make sure, because that we diversify our agriculture. That means, again, we heard it before, we don't want just one single crop variety, we want many. And if we don't then change also the way we eat, farmers cannot change the way they produce. If people continue to ask for more meat, our footprint will go very large, and eventually we're going to root our land, use the water, everything, just for having our last meal. Is that what we want, to leave to our children? Okay, so we're going to have to really change the consumption patterns. And that is a very difficult one. But as you can see, this is actually a little outside of agriculture, needs to be dealt with. So, the paradigm change, is it possible? We did some modeling on this for UNEP. So if you look at the UNEP Green Economy Report, download it, agriculture chapter. So we actually modeled 4 main elements which were recommended in the ISAT report. Reducing losses, better management practices, more research in the right type of agriculture, what we'll be talking about this right now here with all my colleagues. And also in the food processing side, again, better storage, less losses, and mostly also investing around agriculture. So if we, let's say, invest 2%, we'll show you what happened, of the GDP. That was according to the Nick's third report. They suggested that we should invest 2% of the global GDP in a green economy. So we took 1/10 of this into agriculture, because there are other people also want something for industries, energy. So we took 1/10, which is equivalent of, let's say, $141 billion. So if on a global scale, we take $141 billion and put them in the green agriculture, according to the 4 points before, what happens? And you know that this is 1/3 of the global subsidies to agriculture. So, you know, can be done yesterday. Ag production is up between the green, which is this 0.16 actually turns out to be into the green agriculture, and BAU, business as usual, is putting more money, the same amount of money, but in the same old agriculture, GMOs and other stuff, and fertilizer. Okay, but you see we produce more going green, going organic, going agroecological. Crop, if you look at the crop themselves, we are up. Employment is up. This is exactly what we want. We want more jobs. Every politician headache is actually jobs, right? Job creation, right? Soil quality, look at this. I want to do it better. Water use, down. And why? It's clear, because if we treat our soils better, like with organic agriculture, we save water, plenty. Harvested land, we need less land. That's pretty cool. Deforestation, we have much less deforestation. So is that not contrary to what everybody says out there about the green revolution? And the calories per person, look at this. We even have 2,500, which is more than we need, because we need in the average 2,300. So I think we're doing quite well. It's just to say that, yes, it can be done. And I think the question really is, when are we going to do it? I think the time is now. And that's why we are here yesterday, today, and in a few days in Hyderabad, to make sure that we now start to implement and stop talking about more evidence needed to do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hans. All right, what we have in mind now is that I'm going to, and I'm going to have some help, mixing some of these microphones out with you. And we'll leave a couple up here. Great. Do you need to get to answer questions? No. Okay. And it's time to open up our discussion. Free for all. Okay, please.
I'm a little bit concerned about the Ashton report and how do we get it implemented in countries like India. If we had in the past, whenever our people have gone for international conventions, like when Mrs. Gandhi went to the Stockholm meeting in 1972, when she came back, she enacted a lot of legislation drawing upon that convention, which was the Forest Conservation Act, the Water Act 1974, 1981, Air Act, and so on. It was a certain amount of legislation and she drew an authority from the fact that she had gone to this convention. Now, what's the possibility of doing something similar for the ISTAT report? Because it is a report which actually, for the first time, comes out with a very elaborate international justification and legitimization of ecological agriculture and shows industrial agriculture as sort of, in the most transition to what we should be doing. But the governments don't do anything. In India, we have very good possibility of approaching courts. Courts are willing to do many things in India. And last week they were deciding whether a BRT should be removed or not. One of these fast lanes or traffic that are not working. But is it possible to have my friend here, Prashant, to see whether we can get his views on this? Organic agriculture needs to be supported because it does all things well. It protects the soil, it produces good food, safe food, and it does all these things. It protects nature, soil communities. Yet when it comes to supporting them, the government discriminates. It discriminates against them and actually favors those who are involved in chemical agriculture. People who are destroying the soil, producing food that is poisonous for human beings, with all sorts of pesticide residues and so on. This is reverse discrimination in the worst possible sense. Now, are these things, are these things, taken up through judicial means in India? Because governments in India are not going to, at least in the last 10-15 years, except for Jairam Ramesh coming out against GM, the government policies, ICR, universities are not willing to push in favor of ecological agriculture.
Let's give the panel a chance to respond.
Actually, I didn't comment on the number 2 points there in red, and I knew the question would come, so I use this opportunity now to talk about that. We managed actually to get the CFS, the Committee on World Food Security, to keep back, to pick up the continuation of the ISTD report. And how it's worded is actually worded there that the CFS is a very good thing, blah, 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 and that it should support country-led assessment of agricultural knowledge, science and technology. So it's actually there now, and so to be done at the country level. Now again, the CFS has no authority either, but at least I think it can influence the governments and support them if they want to do these assessments. So there has to be first a demand from inside, and people, consumers can say, hey, we don't want all this, we want to change. NGOs can say, we want something to be happening. That India endorsed the report didn't force them to do anything, just like the other 59, now 58 countries. That's clear. But still, to me, it looks like there's a moral commitment when they came to these meetings, they wrote that to actually take this into account in their policies. Again, as I said before, not much has happened. So I think, again, consumers have to, and NGOs and whoever, pressure groups, needs to get working and say, we've got something here, we need to do something about it. And now you have the extra pressure there from the CFS actually to help from within the FAO and the role-based agency to move things forward.
I think the way we as civil society and as citizens frame these issues can be very important because as Hans said, and I think is not often known very well by the public, is that a big part of the reason that we farm the way we do is not because these systems work better, even from an economic perspective. In some ways they do, so they have some efficiencies and scale efficiencies and so on. But policies favor them. And those policies, I use the U.S. as an example where I have the most experience. Those policies are funded by taxpayers. This is money that we are paying into the system. And people have to understand that their money is going to support a certain system because when they understand that it's coming out of their pockets, that can be motivating. And so I'll give you some examples. I mean, in the U.S., how this works. We subsidize corn, soybeans, and a couple other crops. We don't subsidize the crops in these long rotations. That favors them. So if the farmers, they get direct payments. If those crops in particular have bad years, the farmers get paid for that. So we selectively do some taxpayer subsidies. Taxpayers are paying us. We favor those certain systems. And in our insurance policy, insurance is important in agriculture because there is uncertainty. And that's part of the environment, that's part of the nature of agriculture. Cover crops that I mentioned that have all these benefits, increasing yield, pulling nitrogen, recycling, so it doesn't get in our water, cause pollution, so on and so forth. Our insurance policies in the U.S. actually discriminated against cover crops. Because if you were, as a farmer, had a year where you had a lot of late rains and then could not incorporate the cover crop into the ground and to do good after it was growing, and that interfered with the planting of your cash crop, is what happens sometimes. You could not collect insurance for any losses that you got. So that, right up front, because we can't predict the weather, discourages farmers from using cover crops, even though it can increase yield, have all kinds of benefits in the soil, increases the cost of fertilizer and so on. So I think part of the issue is how we frame these things to the public, and that's all of our responsibility.
Great, thank you. I think we should move on to another question. It's just to make it a point, the U.S. subsidizes its agriculture at $1.7 trillion in the last 20 years, and that's for the four major staple crops.
There was a discussion about the regulation in the United States. And I just wanted to add to what you said, that in 1992, when we actually managed to get Article 19.3 into the Convention on Biological Diversity, focused totally on biosafety. President Bush walked right out of Rio and said, we're not going to sign this treaty. I'm not going to allow my biotech industry to be regulated. Came back, told Dan Quayle, who couldn't spell potato, to spell substantial equivalence. And then onwards, basically, there's been no assessment. And this is then twinned with the fact that because you to constantly maintain, and it's you and the Union of Concerned Scientists who put out that don't look, don't see issue, that if you don't look, you're not going to find the hazard. And then you get Arpad Punsai or Dr. Seralini actually doing an honest piece of independent research. Then, as you said, nearly being killed, you know. Added to that is the public relations substitution of science. And I think all your presentations showed that at the bottom line, every claim made for promoting genetic engineering is a claim based on public relations and not science, whether it's a claim of yields or it's the claim of controlling pests or weeds. And finally, it's about criminalizing alternatives. And I think that's something to take so seriously into account, especially in a session where we're talking about alternatives. We're not the only ones thinking of these alternatives. Industry realizes if there is public breeding, who would choose GM? If farmers have their rights to seed, why on earth would they pay royalties for patented seed? And that's the kind of push for not just patent laws, but seed legislation. Luckily, we mobilized early enough because I woke up to this stuff in 1987, and we stopped the seed laws from being passed in 2004. But everywhere in Europe today, every country, farmers are being criminalized, seed breeders are being criminalized, seed savers are being criminalized. That's why this year we're issuing a whole new report on seed freedom and launching a campaign on 2nd December on Gandhi's birth anniversary on absolute civil disobedience against these laws that make alternatives illegal.
Thank you. A quick response from the panel, but keep it short because I'd like to get some more.
Actually, the criminalization goes further. The industry was saying in big ads in Africa that if the politicians, head of states who would uphold the use of GMOs would be responsible for the death of people. I mean, that was been seen in Kenya, in other countries, because there was a big movement against this. They said, no, we're going to hold you responsible for people dying from hunger if the GMOs are not allowed into this country. I mean, just to see how far this has been going.
I think that's absolutely right what you're saying. And that criminalization goes towards researchers who are trying to do the research on these crops because of the intellectual property restrictions. To your point about the lack of evidence, that was also the National Academy of Sciences, our highest academy in 2002. Their report castigated the USDA for continuing equating the lack of evidence with the evidence of a lack. They would say there is no evidence for this when there was no testing. And you can't imply that there's no harm when you've never done the test, when you've never looked. So it is rife, throughout the system that these things are criminalized and basically biased against those kind of systems.
Okay, thank you, Doug.
Hello. This is the question to Dr. Hans. You have analyzed all the things. The basic objective of this meeting or this conference is to how to bring the farmers to the system with this organic or ecological, whatsoever we are saying. So here in India, the farmers are mainly attracted with the quick response system. Any pest control, they want the quick response from the pesticides. So I feel that this is the whatever we are going to educate them about the ecological farming or organic farming, how we are can we compare with with this technology here, whether it is less time taking or less involvement of manpower, because the urban movement of the rural manpower is going very high on day-to-day basis. So how it is being compared with the GM and non-GM?
It's the one thing which, again, as you said, we do something at a time, but organic agriculture or agroecological practices are complex. So it is knowledge intensive. And so we cannot, we have to build up a whole system to educate farmers, to have farmers talking to each other, to share their experiences, their knowledge, and also inject innovations in the system. And that takes time. We lost 50 years doing this because we were banking on the wrong horse. Actually, GM, I think, is probably the most dangerous and stupid mistake, I think, which we made in this century. The amount of money we are spending, people's time, the opportunity costs, because we were going down the wrong path, and many people have not realized this is the wrong path. Some have. I mean, you heard it before here. So how long are we going to go down the wrong path and not do exactly what we should be doing? Is helping the farmers who want to do the right thing, that don't have all the knowledge, don't have all the tools, and what is needed. And that goes all the way to the markets, for example. So there's a lot of things there which need to be learned. Helping farmers to create cooperatives or associations so that they actually gain strength in the face of all the industrial agriculture. So there's many factors there. But the bottom line is that agroecological practices, organic agriculture is knowledge intensive, and it cannot just be done, sort of out of your own personal knowledge. And I think that's one of the lessons that we have starting to catch up with big steps and very fast. But again, I don't really see this on the horizon, unfortunately.
Thank you, Hans. A question to that.
The experience from Andhra Pradesh which I have shown shows that it's possible if the proper investments can be made to spread. I think quick solutions, farmers in fact are not looking for quick solutions. We are actually thrusting on them the quick solutions. I think that's the issue. The second thing is, if you are looking at any other sector also, look at the energy sector or any other thing, the resistance is there. But wherever alternatives are put before the people, they are taking up. The choice is at the government. Farmers have made their choice. Actually, it's the government which now has to make the choice. Thank you.
Judge, I'd just like to move on to get some more questions in. Yes.
This is basically a response to Dr. Sharma's presentation, and essentially you spoke about the revolving door between the regulatory systems and how risk regulation has essentially evolved in the United States. That really is largely the foundation on which most corporate and modern biotechnology initiatives are taken across the world. The USAID plays a major role in this. It has in fact played the single largest role in bringing GM to India, both through BT Cotton and also BT Brinjal. And what it really does is it captures, not the imagination, but it captures the people within the agricultural think tanks, if we can call universities that. The problem with the kind of thinking that this regulation evolves is that it conflicts with another school of thought, which is the precautionary principles. Now this conflict played out in the BT Brinjal case. And thankfully for us that the then minister, Jairam Ramesh, leaned on precautionary principle. But he did not lean on the same principle on other decisions that he made. In fact, he abandoned it quickly after that. So how do we work with this type of conflicting schools of thoughts? As an industry which is by and large dominated by a motive for profit. And it's my suspicion, and it's more than a suspicion actually, that the corporate biotechnology is by and large based on biophytes. In fact, we have a case in India now which we uncovered that shows that almost all the varieties that were accessed in the BT Brinjal issue were based on biopiracy. And it took an enormous amount of efforts to get regulators to actually decide to prosecute. Monsanto and others were involved. So when you look at this as the world, and then we have the old new report that Hans Hermann has presented about how the UN is finally acknowledging that there is this thing called ecological farming. Now that's not news at all here, because seed sovereignty is the foundation of ecological living in India. And it's really something that we just have to wake up to. It is not something that we have to reinvent here. Farmers, as Rama rightly said, have been thrust in the wrong direction. You just remove the thrust and they will come back to where they were, which was in the right place. So in that kind of a tension which is playing out, which we see dominantly now in India but also in other parts of the world, how do we actually take out the corporate thrust on agriculture? Because that really is the problem in this essence.
Well, I mean, I have, that's a good question. I mean, that's what we're all struggling with. I mean, there's a couple, I think a couple of things is, there's a very old saying, sunlight is the best antiseptic. So a lot of these things go on in back doors, and the public is not aware of it. So that's part of it. If the public is aware, perhaps they'll be more responsive. But it's a challenge, and you're absolutely right about USAID. They go around the world doing what they call capacity building, which is basically a euphemism for trying to impose the U.S. regulatory system on other countries. So most peoples of the world are sensitive to impositions on their sovereignty, and maybe that's another part of the solution. But clearly, those are things that are going to have to be developed through the individual countries that are being imposed upon as well. And we in the U.S. obviously have responsibility as well to try to bring those issues forward to our public so that we can try to pull back from our end. But I think that's
I think the gentleman's comment just touched on a big other white elephant in the room that none of you or none of us have addressed properly today, that is that without changing our global capitalist economic system, we will not be able to change the agriculture system, because that's what you were saying, that the incentives and the whole system as it's structured and set up and all of its facets that you've been showing is being geared towards that monopolistic, capitalistic system. So if we don't change that, you will always fight, keep an uphill battle, and those economic forces will always erode it. And that's going directly to, but we haven't spoken about that.
No, and I think that the key here is actually we should understand that food is a human right. And I think we need to stop talking about commodities when we talk about food. Because then it gets traded, we know about the price increase. So I think we have to put, again, our food, our nourishment in the right place in society. It doesn't belong into the market, the stock market, or wherever it is, trading futures and all this. I mean, it should be forbidden, frankly. Because if you see the harm this does to so many millions of people, I think we have to decide what is food. Is it just like gravel or iron, or is it actually something different? And I think food is something different. And unless we treat it differently, we will not change the system.
I think the talks were going very well. But there is the last talk by Luke. Seems that we are playing an ideological game. Holistic solutions. It is very dangerous. Solution about everything related to that is also very arrogant. It's like saying that we are putting this model solutions to all the problems related to agriculture. It's very dangerous. But I want to make one comment. Acharya ji has gone away. He took great pride in that standing committee's report. The point is, today we are saying we have 250 million tons of food grain. We were having 70 and we were facing famine in 60s. And I know a lot of ideologically motivated people criticized Green Revolution at that time. They've written books on that. not very
20
evidence-based
years
books.
later.
Not evidence-based books. Just saying this is violent because a large farmer is earning more than a small farmer. When the yields go up, surely the one guy with 5 acres is going to earn 5 times more of 1 acre farmer. So the point I'm trying to make is today I heard some good words about breeding. At one time, this was also a no-go area. And I wonder tomorrow we will be saying the same thing about genetically engineered crops. Now let me point out one thing. All of us are afraid of discussing this point, why this research is not open source. That is a critical issue because open source research can be trashed. It is out in the open. You can set up any number of experiments. You can say this is bad, this is good. This overzealous patenting on crops, who has brought it? And I would urge my friends from abroad that they should fight their own governments to get this kind of research more open source so that this is seen by everybody. People can work more on it, improve it further wherever we feel the necessity of that. And I think your work was very nice because there's a lot of variability still available in crops. Even standing committee, it is so tragic that this committee has refused to look at a report which was made by Dr. Swaminathan, where scientists put their heads together and said, these are the breeding objectives which can be met with conventional breeding. These are the objectives which cannot be met by conventional breeding. But there can be debate on that. And look, this can also be met by conventional breeding. But what did we do? Our overzealousness has stopped germplasm movement around the world. We don't talk about CG institutions now, high lysine corn. Where is that work? Why that is not being implemented? So I think I would only urge that we should keep a very open mind for scientific and technological developments. We should not say that these farmers are too small or we have all the wisdoms, they should not have different possibilities. And technology generates possibilities. The whole, what you have in the Western world, the economic levels that you have are based upon science and technology. So why should we say this technology is not good? You work on it, you put it in open source and see what dividends it can give to the small farmers of India or of Africa. But shutting our minds to it and saying this is an evil, don't even look at it. I think in history we had these kind of anti-technology views. The French Revolution was about it. The French revolutionaries were very much against technology. So, you know,
Let the panel respond. Please let the panel respond.
what's that?
Well, it's a big question. I mean, certainly open source is a better idea than patents. But I think you have to look realistically at the structural issues involved. And this is not an issue of ideology. First, open source, the model is often software. It's very different to manipulate software than genetic. Genetic engineering is a highly capitalized, highly centralized technology. Yes, you can. I'm a molecular biologist and plant pathologist by training. Well, but the equipment involved, the laboratories involved are still extremely expensive. So you can't do it as an open source in the same way you can do software. So that's a structural barrier for that. So there, it's not I don't think quite the equivalent. And I think discussing it as if it's in a policy vacuum and a political economic vacuum is not realistic because you have corporations that spend and have a tremendous amount of money, and that influences political processes. So I don't, it's not as if we're all on a level playing field and you have some independent scientists that can go out and independently do this work. We do that. For one thing, speaking for ourselves, we're not ideologically opposed to genetic engineering. We have specific criticisms about how it's developed, about the regulatory system weaknesses, and so on and so forth. But what we're, I think, all trying to do, I mean, we all come from everybody comes from some ideological perspective. I don't accept the idea that we don't have ideas about politics and society and economics that drive us. You do, I do, we all do. The question is, let's be transparent about it. And as was said here, we have a critique, a material critique of many of these aspects of this agriculture. And I think, we think they're well-founded. I don't never claim I'm infallible, but not by any means. But these are what our observations based on the data, based on what we're seeing as possibilities. And we acknowledge, for example, and we've seen that genetic engineering can make some modest contributions, but we have to weigh that in terms of the costs. We have to weigh it in terms of the opportunity costs about investing in one technology versus another. And so, I mean, we wouldn't say, for example, on a technological basis, there should be no exploration of genetic engineering. And I probably differ to some extent on that with some of my colleagues. But what we do know, and based on the data, is that these other technologies clearly, and methods clearly outperform genetic engineering. They're clearly more cost effective. And, part of our analysis is looking forward and looking at what some of the technological barriers are going forward. I didn't get a chance to talk about that, but because of the complexity of these genes, we often have unintended pleiotropic effects in the genome. And this is seen in drought tolerance. I mean, it's in the literature. And maybe we'll overcome some of that, maybe we won't. So that's one issue. The other question is, what is really needed? And there is no evidence that we need genetic. Now, this is not an argument for or against it in and of itself. But, starting from the question of what do we need, there is no evidence-based assessment that shows that we need genetic engineering, that we cannot achieve the things that we're talking about using agroecology, using breeding, and so on. Now again, that's not an argument against genetic engineering, but it's an important concept to understand what do we need, what do we not need. Now, nobody can predict where a technology is going, and that's why we're not completely opposed to having some research and exploration in this technology. But again, if we look at what we know and what the relative costs are and what the relative benefits are, we would advise putting most of our effort by far into things that we know work, that we know have benefits, that we know are more cost effective. So that's the issue. This is not, I'm sure we could dig into it and find ideological reasons behind it, but based on the data, based on the evidence, this is what we find works.
Thank you. Now, you guys are being fantastic, and you're like racehorses with incredible endurance. This is what I would like to propose. Walter wants to respond. Vandana wants to make a comment because she feels that there was specific reasons to address that.